Toscana, or Tuscany, is an Italian region that will be the focus of this story. Because in this world, Toscana is its own nation, and we are taking on a Toscana-only challenge. And Fiorentina of Florence, which is the capital of Toscana, has new rules in place to only be able to sign Toscana players and nobody else. Which is very similar, of course, to the board culture of Bilbao, only being able to sign Basque players. So I'm going to take over this Fiorentina side, which has already been changed, with Toscana-only players, and try to win trophies only using players of this region. Yes, welcome everybody. This is Fiorentina, but not as you know it. Now, this is arguably one of my favorite Italian clubs, definitely of the 90s because of the players that they had, but I don't think they were Toscana players. Again, I don't quite know how to pronounce the name of this, but Toscana has been made a country in this database. And I love the idea of this because the whole sort of like Bilbao version of it, where, you know, they don't buy players, it's only from, of course, the Basque region, has always fascinated me in a way. And I love this idea because it kind of leans into a youth intake only challenge. But there is like a lot of players that can, I guess, spawn from Toscana. And I've noticed from having a little bit of an experiment on this that there's another team that do produce Toscana players that I'll probably start buying a lot of players from in the future if it goes the same way. So anyway, so as I've kind of already alluded to, the Fiorentina squad has been changed so that all the players right now is only from Toscana, which is good and bad in ways because some players that they've lost is arguably some of their good players, but they have gained some fantastic players too, with the likes of Giovanni Di Lorenzo, Nicolo Zaniolo, and Gianluca Mancini, as well as some future prospects such as Samuel Ricci, who we know turns out to be a bit of a monster sometimes. We've got Tommaso Baldanzi. Now, this is arguably one of my favourite wonder kids on the game. I was absolutely overjoyed when I seen him in the team. And there's other names as well that you might recognise that we are going to rely on. The trouble is at the start is there is no out-and-out striker. There are out-and-out strikers, but none that we can really rely on going forward. There is a 34-year-old called Pavoletti, who for now has good natural fitness, so I'm hoping we can keep him for a couple of years. And yes, he's a good target man, but he's a leading Serie B player, not exactly a Serie A player. However, he has got 2 and 2 for me already, and 5 in total because he scored 3 goals in the continental competition as well. So I'm kind of hoping that in the first year, we either have a good youth intake with a good striker that we can just chuck in, or this other team does too. There's a couple of loan players that we haven't got this season. Daniele Rugani, who is on loan at Ajax, can't recall him, but when he comes back, we'll definitely go straight into the team. Unfortunately, he is 29 as well. That's obviously going to be the downside. But tactically, I'm setting up in a 4-2-3-1. I'm going to play Martinelli from the off. They have other goalkeepers, other better goalkeepers, but this guy has a 5-star potential in our team and is only 17. I'd like to think that we could potentially use him throughout the whole... I don't know how long this is going to go. I'd like to try and win the Serie A with this, but I'd like to think that we can have this guy as our number 1 the whole time. Tommaso Martinelli, let's make him a legend at Fiorentina. Now, with this tactic, we have started okay. We've beaten Cagliari 4-1, but we did lose at home to Parma at the start of the season, which isn't great. And we have knocked out Tromsø with a hat-trick from Pavoletti, so that's good. And we go into the Europa Conference League A. Positive stuff as we start off here. I'd like to win a European competition. Could it be the Conference League in season number 1? Well, let's find out. All right, we've returned on probably the most exciting day for a save like this. Youth intake day. Now, right now, our youth recruitment is only level 2. And believe me, every single time I have the opportunity to, I'll be asking on my finances tab the board requests of improving the youth recruitment, which I'm going to do right now. So hopefully we can keep getting that up, and within 5 or 6 years time we can have that close to a 5-star. But of course that's not going to be amazing if it's also down to how good Toscana is as a nation, and I haven't been pumped up to be, you know, Brazil. All right, this isn't going to be a really overpowered nation. This is going to be, I think, a very good average. And that's what's going to make this challenge quite entertaining and difficult. But we are on Youth Intake Day, and there's a couple of really good players. However, no striker, which is, you know, I mean, we've got a striker down here, Clarinho. Is he going to get into the first team? Probably not. It's definitely not in the first season anyway. If we've got Pavli... what was he? I'm so sorry. I can't even remember what he was called. Pavoletti. If we do lose him, then possibly. Who, by the way, this part of the season... 32 goals in 38 games. But we'll get to that in a second because in the league it's not going too well. However, the players that we do have coming in. Now, arguably down here, the good talents, not really going to focus on them. Let's focus on the top talents and the elite. So we've seen Clarinho, Vidala, who is a centre-back who doesn't look too bad either. 15 jump reach, 6'5". You know I like my big men.
What did he say?
But the most important things that we've got to be looking out for here, and it's something I haven't really done for a while, is looking out for personalities and looking out for determination. They could be looking, incredible, but if they have a bad personality, a low determination, you can bet your bottom dollar no matter how much game time you give them or training facilities, they ain't never going to progress. So resolute personality is a good one. It's not the best, but it's definitely a positive one with 16 determination. I reckon this guy could fit into a starting 11 at some point. Definitely not right now. And of course, we've got centre-backs who have got good ages. I don't want to lose any players. So we don't need him immediately. And that's also a positive too. We can loan him out, try and get him some game time elsewhere where it's not going to cost us points in the league table. But Ivan Sakardi is another one in our elite talents who is a defensive right side of player and can also play right midfield. So it gives us options here. Can also play centre-back. Physicals aren't amazing. Has a fairly professional personality. Professionalism is what is key when it comes to a player development. Has a low-ish determination, though. And some of his mental attributes are a little bit worrying to start things off. But he's only 15. Let's give him some time, I reckon. So Samuel Roma at centre-back is the final player that we can look at here. Fairly professional again. 12 determination, so it ain't too bad. Natural fitness of 18. Brilliant. That's a good start. 5'11", hopefully he can grow because he's only 15. They have obviously put it in there recently that they get taller. So I think this could be another player that we could look into bringing into the first team at some point. Definitely not right now. Definitely not in the next couple of years. But you never know. So good potential. And I think that's a cracking first year intake. Now, the downside of this is actually how we are doing in the season. We have already been knocked out of the Coppa Italia in the third round by Hellas Verona. 1-0, unfortunately. In the Serie A, we are currently in 9th place. Now, we stand a very outside chance of qualifying for Europe next season. But Pavoletti is the top scorer of the league. Milan have kind of run away with it. There's just a big gap between us and Bologna and Torino, who I would have thought at the start of the season would have been two teams we could finish above. Roma's dropped off, so I did think we're probably the 8th best team in the league. I'm a bit disappointed with that. And results have been okay, but we've just picked up some silly losses. Like Monza away here was a bad one. Obviously, losing against Torino and Bologna hasn't helped us whatsoever. And then not only did we lose against Hellas Verona in the cup, but also in the league. So we're shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit. But again, we don't necessarily have the best striker. We just have really good supporting cast. So let's see if at the end of the season we can salvage something out of this. Now, you will also have seen that we played Heidenheim in the next round of the Europa Conference League. They knocked us out. Yeah, it was a bad result as well. 3-2 on aggregate. A team that I think I should be beating there, especially with some of our attacking players. But fair play to Heidenheim, the Luton Town of German football recently. I've seen them called, I think, by my friend Zealand. However, we did manage to salvage the 8th place finish. Now, we caught up with Torino, but we couldn't catch Bologna, who actually went on to have a better season than what we thought. They finished above Juve, Lazio and Atalanta and had a cracking time, finishing on 72 points. So no European football next season, but that could be a good thing. Pavoletti with 29 goals. He takes home the Golden Boot. Who would have thought that when you've seen that guy at the start of the season? But our tactic of just pumping it into him has definitely worked. He's finished above Lukaku and Abraham, who also had fantastic seasons, as well as Rafael Leao. Milan really did well this season. They were a force, and I think that's unfortunate for us. But our end of the season was better once we got the youth intake in. Now, if we're looking at the players that we did bring in, obviously, none of them I think is going to go into our first team straight away, but they have immediately gone in as sort of like the best players in our youth academy or our youth team right now. We also have this guy called Ricardo Brashki, who I've already had my eye on. I mean, he's 6'3". If we can develop him a little bit more into that target forward type of player, he could slot right in. When we do lose Pavoletti at some point, he could slot in. He's far away from the player that Pavoletti is at this point. So there's a possibility, but I wouldn't count on it just yet.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Now, we have been given £26 million, but of course we can only sign Tuscana players. However, there are a lot of Tuscana players in and around. You can see like all the players that we could potentially buy or are at least interested in. Potentially buys over 5,400, but of course that's not going to work because they're not actually Tuscana players. The actual Tuscana players that we can buy. So there's a possibility I could buy some. I've also sent my scouts out now because we do have... At the start of the season was really weird. I think that the bug with this is that all of my staff were classed as coaches, which is the reason why I have 40 or 54 coaches out of 10, which is a little bit bonkers, but I can't be bothered to go through and work out which ones are supposed to be scouts and stuff and change their contracts, so I just hired 12 scouts. So now that I've got enough scouts, we actually have a recruitment focus going on of actually finding Tuscana players, which you can see here in and around the world, and we've found a couple already, but I need to get them to find the best players of the future from Tuscana, and that's going to be the plan. So goals wise this season, we know Pavoletti had the most, but Baldanzi, who I'm really glad played quite a lot of games, got 14 with 10 assists. Zaniolo got 12 assists as well. I'm hoping for a little bit more from him really in the future, but you know, he's turned into quite a good player. Bernardeschi has actually been quite good for us too. Just a different type of winger than what I was hoping, but yeah, Zaniolo is easy, I think, our star man, because some of his attributes, like 17 for strength as a winger, goes really underrated. When you see him just box people off the ball in the match engine, it looks really impressive. But even Di Lorenzo, as kind of our star player at the start of the season, only 8 assists. I was kind of hoping for better from our right wing back, considering we got a big guy up front. But the one bit of, obviously, development we did have was Martinelli, who we played as many games as possible. He's got a fairly determined personality. I'm hoping his professionalism isn't too low, because there is a bit of development there, just not as much as what I hope. So let's see what we can do over this summer. All right, we're at July. I just thought I'd have a look and see what I could request the board to do. They've rejected, unfortunately, the junior coaching budget, which is frustrating, but they have agreed to up the budget for youth recruitment. So the networking budget has been upgraded. So the only annoying thing is obviously that only applies to Tuscana players, because that's obviously the club vision. Whereas if you actually upgrade that for other clubs, my belief is that you could get players obviously from different nations and stuff. There are like dual citizenship of certain nations. Obviously Italian's going to be one of them, Italian and Tuscana. So you might see a couple of Italians come through who also have Tuscana heritage or some kind of second nation. So that's my hope for that, to be fair. It's still a 2-star right now, but yeah, we need to bump that up across the future. However, there has been some signings, We're at the start of September now in our second season. Brought in 2 players. One of them was a free transfer in Biashki, just a good backup striker, really, who is, of course, from Tuscana. Now, we got him from Catanzaro from, I think they're the Serie B side. Yeah, so they're down there. That's one club that has a couple of Tuscana players. But Genoa is another one, but it's not the club I was mentioning that we need to be looking at. Now, I didn't sign anybody from the club I mentioned that we should be looking at, so I really hope that in the future that comes into exactly what the test experiment that I did happens to. Now, Favili, again, it's another striker. He likes to beat the offside trap. He's 6'3". I'm not looking at this guy and going, oh God, like, you know, this is going to be our new striker, because you can see from his technical and mentals, he's not that type of player. It's just our options are very limited because we are only going from players, or 4 players from Tuscana. He got 10 goals in the league below. He got 1 already in 1 game, which was off the bench. We can't really complain too much about that. I know we had a lot of money, but we got nobody to spend it on. Now, Tactically, I think we go with something very similar. I've tweaked a couple of the roles and the instructions, but we're still utilizing Martinelli as much as we possibly can. But let me show you what our best 11 would look like, because I didn't show you that last time. We got Ricci in there with Amatucci, who is actually quite good, and he's only 20 with a good potential. My only worry with him is he has a balanced personality, which means it could be a bad thing. His determination is only 12, so not amazing, and his natural fitness is quite low. I'm kind of looking at this guy and going, we probably might have to replace him sooner, rather than looking at him and going, oh, his potential is 4.5 star. He could be one of our best players. I think there's too much going against him, possibly, but we'll see. But Baldanzi, Zaniolo, and Bernardeschi, as long as we can keep them, that's, you know, important. I forgot to mention, of course, we've also got this guy here, Matteo Vitti, who at 22, we could have for a long time. He used to have a better potential than what he probably does now, but he's still a decent player. So we've got him, and he's left-footed as a centre-back, which we all know is fantastic. So with Martinelli being locked in, that is kind of what we'd be looking at as our number one side. So we do have some good players on the bench, and this Tuscana side is not as bad as what we played last season. Again, it's more about the strike force. That's what I think it is. So we started the season okay. We've won 2, but again, that Bologna match has killed us. 4-1. They've got a very good side on this. But a fantastic win against Sassuolo with 5 goals being scored. That's great. And we finally beat Hellas Verona, obviously, who we lost against twice in very short time last season, even with 10 men, because Zaniolo got himself a straight red card, which isn't great. But this next month's going to be tricky. Then we've got a few games which should be winnable. So I'm hoping by the next youth intake, we should be doing better than what we were the last time we stopped in March. Oh, saying that, it could be a good season, it might not be. And that is because we are currently in 9th place in the Serie A, which is very similar to what we were looking at last season, in fact. And we are 5 points away from 8th place. And Venezia is the team above. So again, 2 teams that you don't expect to be above. Bologna is the team below us, and we know how good they are. So we could be even worse. We could be just scraping the top 10 at this point. But we are also in the Coppa Italia semi-final, and we're still in within a chance because we have drawn the first leg away from home against Napoli. So we've got to play them in the second leg at home. There's a possibility we could get into the Coppa Italia. Now, I don't really know the qualification off the back of my, well, just off the back of my hand in terms of if we've only finished runners-up, say against Juve or Atalanta, and they've already got European qualification, whether we get given that European qualification or not. Not sure. Some leagues do. Some leagues just go to whoever's finished higher than in the league position. We're in with a chance of winning it, and that's the main thing, to get us back into Europe, which of course will help us keep the players who are really good in our side, because we had a little bit of unhappiness throughout the summer from those other players like the likes of Zaniolo, who wants football. But Baldanzi has been a star player for us, and it's hard to deny it with 13 goals, 9 assists when he looks like this. Damn! A phenomenal talent. A perfectionist personality. We've got to be building the team around him. That's what I'm thinking. We've got him for another 4 years. However, he has a minimum fee release clause of £36 million. And sometimes you cannot be offering in any more or less and get that taken out. Now, Martinelli has developed ever so slightly and is looking like a good goalkeeper at 19 years old now. So phenomenal stuff from him. Zaniolo is having an average season, which is disappointment. But it is March. It's the end of March, and it's the most important day of the year for us. It is Youth Intake Day. Now, the candidates have come in, and we have got some corkers to go over, including a goalkeeper who isn't necessarily in the top elite talents, but he's in the top one, top talents here, and that is this goalkeeper here. Not too bad, low determination, note of 3. Probably will never see him. Antonio Bocca is an okay winger, temperamental personality though, with 10 for determination. Again, very hit and miss whether this guy is going to turn into anything. There's a Derek, a resolute personality, a good determination, bravery and aggression for sure. At right back, potential there. There's definitely potential that he could turn into a player. But it's the top 3 that I'm excited about in a way. A centre midfielder, which is always difficult because I feel like most tactics lend themselves now to a DM, which we could obviously train him in. because he's accomplished there anyway. But we've got Maurizio Moroni, fairly determined personality with 17 determination there. Great technique, teamwork, and bravery already. Just that low natural fitness. That's what worries me there. But on the off chance that, the natural fitness doesn't play too much into injury problems, etc., we could have a bit of a player on our hands there. Mario Del Coco, who is, again, described as like a right winger, but we see him as a right back as a natural. Perfectionist personality, 14 determination, good teamwork, could be a good right back. Dribbling abilities high, technique's not bad. Maybe an attacking right back. We've got Di Lorenzo for the minute, but he is in his 30s. And then finally we've got Andreas Megner, left-sided player. Doesn't look amazing with a fickle personality. So although his potential's high, that's a tough one. So a couple of good options there, potentially. But we've got to salvage this season and make sure we don't get sacked first. Well, they ain't going to sack us because in the 96th minute of the Coppa Italia final, we managed to pick up a winner against Juventus. What an occasion that is in Rome. Our Tuscana players has won a trophy within 2 seasons. Zaniolo got the first, but Reece Nelson did equalise. But in the 96th minute, Federico Di Francesco, who is a 30-year-old player that can play either on the wings or up front, that we have brought in, has got himself a very important goal in Tuscana history there and Fiorentina's history as we lift the Coppa Italia. So absolutely buzzing with that. And actually, league form-wise, we put the performance in as well, because in the league table in the Serie A, we finished in 6th place. We rescued ourselves from that 9th place that we were in March. We pushed on. We don't have a top scorer, hilariously, and don't look like we got anybody other than Martinelli there. Oh, Antonucci's actually there too. But we finished in 6th place, and on the final day, we managed to win, because if we're looking at past positions here, we jumped up 3 positions, or 2 positions. 2 positions there with a 3-1 win over Genoa on the final day of the season. So hilariously knocking down a couple of people, but we managed to do quite well there, and we finished in 6th place. Fantastic stuff. So we haven't got that much in the budget normally. Not in the budget, sorry, in the bank. Normally I wait until the bank balance is a little bit more full, and I'll start asking, of course, for higher youth recruitment, higher youth facilities, whatever I can potentially get. But that is a very successful season and definitely gives us a year in charge extra. So Baldanzi was pretty much our top scorer for the whole season and our best player, 18 goals, 11 assists. Is this kind of the downfall of Pavoletti, though? Still looks okay. He just had a bad season compared to what he did last year, and kind of Baldanzi's really stepped up for us in that attacking midfield role. However, he is unhappy. We extended his contract and he is fuming about it, which isn't great. And he also has a minimum fee release clause, so he's not going to offer to stay here any longer. Zaniolo, again, unhappy customer, wants to move to a club with a stronger squad. He has a minimum fee release clause as well and will not sign with us. So yeah, unfortunately right now we're in a bit of a predicament that those players could be activated and we could lose them. Then I don't know what we're going to do. We might have to really rely on the youngsters that have already come in. Tommaso Martinelli's been great for us though, and considering obviously we've played him as many games as possible, has done solid for us. If we're looking in the development centre, we don't have anybody that's first team candidates other than Di Stefano, who comes in as an okay striker, but I'm not looking at him and going, let's stick him in. He's got 3 appearances. But yeah, nobody really that stands out to me that we should be chucking straight into the first team just yet. Nobody's developing just yet. We'll keep our cards close to our chest, I think, on this one. Now, once again, got to the end of the summer, and I thought, I haven't asked them to upgrade anything. And the finances were looking a lot better, £106 million. You'll see why in a second. But they rejected a request for increased junior coaching, which is frustrating, but the youth recruitment improvement, has again been accepted. So that should go up from, 2.5 star? That it was at the end of last season, 2.5 stars. So hopefully that does improve and we start getting better players in because of that. But yeah, why is the budget, why is the bank balance so high? Well, unfortunately, we've had to lose 2 players both to Newcastle as well. Baldanzi and Zaniolo, I feel like I jinxed it too because I mentioned their release clauses. They've now gone. We haven't replaced anybody either because there's nobody in the world to replace them with. We're going to have to rely on what we already have. Now, tactically, I've decided to change it off the back of this. We no longer have a really good attacking midfielder. And what I thought we do have is 3 really good centre-backs. So I'm trying to think outside of the box here. We've got attacking full-backs, 3 really good centre-backs. It lends itself to a 3 at-the-back formation. So that's what we have decided to go with. We've still got Bernardeschi. They put Mancini up front, which I'm not hating. I'm still a little bit unsure who is going to get us the amount of goals that we require because at the start of the season, doesn't really look like anybody's exactly scoring a lot of goals, but we've got a good midfield, a good back line. I mean, Ponzi actually as a left wing back looks okay. It's just that he's right-footed. But defensively, we're strong, we're solid. We've got Martinelli, who instantly actually now goes in as our #1 goalkeeper. So that's a system we're going to be rocking from this point onwards until we obviously have players that allow us to change, or we are forced to change, I guess. But it's been a bit of a rocky start. A draw to Juve, obviously beat them in the Coppa Italia final, phenomenal stuff, winning a trophy, losing away to Napoli, which isn't the worst thing, it was that as a late goal that was frustrating. But we did beat Parma 1-0 at the start of the season. Of course, we're in the Europa League phase off the back of our fantastic end of the season there as well, with the cup win and finishing in 6th place. So there's potential for a European trophy this season if we play our cards right. Well, it feels like deja vu, but yet again, we're 9th in the league table, which every season we're struggling by the looks of it. However, we're still in the Europa League. We've got Manchester United in that competition in the quarterfinals to come. But we are in with a chance yet again of a second Coppa Italia. As the current holders, we've just gone 0-0 with Juventus in the away leg, which remember, we did get a draw against Napoli last season in the away leg. So we've really got to hope for our home form. However, Milan looks like to be who we will face if they got a 5-2 advantage to take to Lazio. And they are second in the league and doing very well. So potential that this season could be great. But it's the best day of the year. It's youth intake day. Fingers crossed we get a good one. The report said it wasn't that amazing, but I beg to differ. Excellent youth intake, but there's no elite talents. Yeah, so there's 6 options here in the top talents. When I seen the excellent intake, I was like, okay, here we go. And then top talents, I was like, oh, well, there's loads of them. Then I realized elite talents go above, and we don't have any. So we've got another goalkeeper here. He doesn't look amazing, if I'm honest. There's a couple of okay talents in there. I mean, the name is more important here. King Fung Giafrida. I just want to play him just for the name. Hey, he doesn't look much of a striker. Good heading ability, fairly determined personality, good natural fitness. Outside of that, what's he really offering? Not a lot, to be honest. Tom Marchetti doesn't look too bad as a right wing back, but it feels like each season we've had a good right back in there. And Elvis Moreski, another striker who the base attributes look okay, but perfectionist personality, determination's great, but only a 4-star potential, and that's not really going off much. So, yeah, I don't know about this one. We've got some players, though, who are turning into beasts and are first-team candidates that we have seen from previous years. We've got Vadala, who we looked at beforehand. He looks like he could be an interesting prospect. Maybe a loan deal would be good for him. Ivan Zaccardi again, good right wing back. Actually, he's probably developed quite more than what I thought he would, which I'm quite enjoying, actually. As an attacking wing back, we could really utilise him maybe in a couple of years if we do lose Di Lorenzo. But Samuel Roma is potentially the one that I think might get into the side first. The reason for it, as you can see here, he looks fantastic already at 17. The mental attributes are almost there. Position of 13, which is a very high number for a 17-year-old defender. 15 for leadership and 18 for bravery on a 17-year-old is phenomenal. Jump reach is great. The technical abilities, where you need them, he has them. I think this guy could be the first player that we look to bring into our starting 11, possibly for next season, especially with the fact that he's a centre-back and we are 3 at the back. So let's see. Can we get another trophy? We're still in the Europa League. We need to salvage this league form, though. So let's see if we can do that. Well, unfortunately, I completely jinxed it, didn't I? Because we were knocked out in the quarter-final of the Europa League. A tight tie against Manchester United. We actually won the second leg 2-1, but the 3-0 loss, or 3-1 loss at the start, or 2-1 loss, whatever it was, at the start was a bad result for us. My maths recently has been dreadful. I do apologise. And the semi-final against Juventus, they beat us 1-0. Hilariously, though, I jinxed Milan as well because Lazio beat them in the second fixture 5-1. So Lazio went on to the final and gave me a big middle finger because they beat Juventus 3-1, which is rather impressive. Now, league form-wise, we did finish in 7th, so we did salvage our league form and managed to finish into the Europa Conference League next year because Lazio won the league. If anything, that does me a favour because I do fancy us in that Europa Conference League. I think we're building a good enough side now, so that could be an interesting one. I'm enjoying that. There's a couple of targets that I'm looking at in terms of our recruitment focus. If we're looking at scouted players now, and we're going off the back of course, only being able to sign players from Tuscana, the potential of players that are coming in, we are starting to see where we could be picking them up from. It's Empoli. So don't hold your breath because we might not get any this summer, but we are looking. We do have a big budget, of course, because we didn't spend much last season. But I have already bought a player for £8 million from Empoli. Yeah. And he's only 18. So money being spent, but that's because he looks fantastic. 5-star potential in our team, perfectionist personality, 19 determination. Why couldn't he come through my team? But he didn't, unfortunately. Now, Empoli were willing to do business. We got him done. We got him over the line. He's joining us, so he will come in. So, really, I know this is very much a youth intake-based save, but we can look, because of that sort of idea of only Tuscana players, if they do come in, we can buy them. And I ain't turning that guy down. Yes, he's got low jumping reach. I understand that, and he's only 5'11". But everything else about him looks fantastic. I think that's a cracking signing. How he fits in, because obviously defensively we are also really good anyway. I don't know whether he'll go straight into the team or not. We just are desperate for goals. Pavoletti is our top scorer this season with 18. For the 3rd season, obviously, he has been quite good with the goals, but he is now retiring. That's where our problem gets us. So we lose him now for next season. Mancini, I don't think, can carry us. Only 10 goals in 39 games this season. That is bad, really. So I don't know where all the goals are going to come from. But if you've got this far, then you must be enjoying this concept. Please consider pressing that subscribe button. Join the crew. We're en route to 200,000 subscribers this season. If you can help us get there, that would be unbelievable. Loads of videos coming out just like this one, so I really do appreciate your support. It's free to do so. Press that subscribe button. Right, let's see what I can do this summer. All right, if you thought our first signing from Empoli was a little bit expensive, then you're in for a treat, because we are going back to our, well, it's keeping the same tactic as what we had, our 3 at the back system. And you'll notice there are 2 names in our lineup right now. Martinelli, of course, is in there, who has developed really, really well. You cannot deny it. He looks great, and I think playing him as early as what we did, we've benefited from doing so. And that is why we are now locking in Gilarducci. What a name. This is the best thing about doing a very much Italian-based save, is some of the names are just the coolest that you'll ever see. That guy must have a cigar in his mouth at all times, because that is a phenomenal name. Now, he's a 2.5-star current ability with a 5, almost 5 potential, and Gilarducci is just 18 years old. Physicals are there, fairly loyal personality with a low determination. We need to really hope he can develop into an absolute booming player on that right-hand side, because he cost us £35 million. Yeah, I know, but hear me out. We get a lot of money because we're not spending it elsewhere. So I think when you do find a player that could have the potential to be one of your best players in the future, you just got to go for it. And that's what we did there. £44 million. We're very lucky. Oh, yes, by the way, the most important transfer business we did was loaning out Vidala, Samuel Roma, and Sicardi for first team football next season. Cannot underestimate how important that is. As you can see, he is playing at Vicenza and starting as well, so that's great. Samuel Roma is also at Vicenza and starting again, amazing. And then Sicardi is on loan at a team here with Ferelpi Salo. I don't know either, but he's got a man of the match in 4 appearances so far, so they must be enjoying him down in the Serie B too. They kind of have like a kit that reminds me of like a rugby team. If you agree, then let me know, because that's like a Rugby Nation type of, or Rugby League type of kit, if you ask me, especially with like the shoulders sponsorship. But yeah, anyway, we're besides the point. That, for me, is the most important in terms of transfer business that we have done, despite, of course, paying £35 million for a player. Ignore that. So no other first team candidates that we've got, really. Anybody that has been in there, just bumped them up, but nobody's really getting into the first team. We're looking quite dire in some positions, if I'm honest, because if we do this, then we have a great first team 11 core, some okay players on the bench, but they're coming in positions where we have our best players. That's the trouble. We've also got a lot of people asking around Samuel Ricci, who, of course, wants to move to a bigger club, but only loan deals are coming in at the minute recently. He looks fantastic, which has been great, but I don't know. We've got him until 2030, which is another 4 years on his contract. We should be all right for the time being. We'll see how it goes. But start of the season, we cannot deny we've had a great time to start the season. We beat Inter Milan with Geladucci scoring against his former club. You couldn't write it, could you? What a goal it was as well. 1-0, 85th minute. We've beat Pushkas Academia in the Europa Conference League to qualify for that. We also beat Hellas Verona 2-0 and Cremonense 2-0 with Samuel Ricci scoring both goals. It's been a great start to the season. We haven't got our fixtures for Europa Conference League just yet, but I hope that we can do some damage in that competition. I mean, you couldn't write it, could you? The team that we have got in the quarterfinals of the Europa Conference League is the team that stole our 2 best players last year in Newcastle. It's very frustrating. I know they've obviously got a bit of an Italian base going on now with Tonali, but Zaniolo is there, of course. Baldanzi is also there, and looks like he hasn't really been playing as much as maybe we were playing him. Maybe that was a mistake from you, Baldanzi. But he's in the lineup anyway, and we'll be facing Newcastle United in the Europa Conference League quarter-final stage, so tough game. We are, of course, in the semi-final of the Coppa Italia, but we are against Atalanta, who have a 1-0 advantage going into the second leg, which will be played in our home ground. But if we do go through, it's Juve and Milan in the final, but Milan are running away, or not running away with it. Milan are kind of, to be fair, if they win their 2 games in hand, they'll be running away with it, aren't they? They're 2 points clear. If they win those 2, they're 8, so they would be running away with it. But Juve is the team above us, only 2 points above us, because we're actually having quite a good season. Despite not having a goal scorer, we're doing okay. We're holding our own in here. I think defensively, we've just been really good. And I think that's the most important thing. Stats, if we're looking at fewest conceded, we're 4th. So nowhere near Napoli, in terms of that. But I think we're doing okay. I think I'm proud of it. But it is, once again, the best day of the year. Let's have a look then at the youth intake that we have come through. We have 1 elite talent. It's annoying, isn't it? We've had a few coming through. Now we've only got 1. And it's only classed as a good intake. But Gianluca Monaco, finally a striker. Is he a good one, though? I don't think so. No, sorry, but unambitious with 5 determination and 6 natural fitness. You wait all that time for an elite striker to come through, and he's that bad. He also has low consistency as well, a very bad weak foot. And what's this one? This one's bad as well, isn't it? Yeah, it doesn't look to further himself. I can't see this guy ever getting into our team, which is a shame. So I don't really know what we're going to do there. Moroni is showing signs that he could be useful for our first team. The development is there, potentially, to bring him into the first team next season. The rest of this youth intake, there's a couple of talents that I think are noteworthy in the top talents. again, it's a right back though. Balance personality worries me with six determination. Alberto Scheffer, not a bad centre back, not amazing though. That's the trouble. And Pegoraro, who has some good mental attributes, but right winger. We've just paid £35 million for one. I think the only other one that I think I like the look of is this guy here. Fairly determination. Good with both feet. But again, that natural fitness is killing us. And I think that's the trouble. We need players with better natural fitness because better physicals we know are important. So we'll see. But the development centre, and we're looking at our loan candidates, how they're doing right now. They're all playing games of football, and that's really important. So looking at how they are at the end of the season, we could really have one or two first-team players at the end of the season there. But will that be coming into a team that's just won a trophy or not? Well, we were very close to a trophy, but unfortunately we finished runners-up, 1-0 against Milan in the final of the Coppa Italia. There it was, Benasser scoring the goal in the 82nd minute, which is kind of heartbreaking holding on for that long, because it does actually look like we had a far better statistical game than what they did. We had more chances, we had a far superior XG. I don't know, I feel a little bit hard done by, but we'll go again next year, is always the saying, isn't it? And as we anticipated as well with the Conference League quarter-final stage, we took a 1-0 advantage against Newcastle and they battered us 4-0 on the second leg, which is hard to take. The good thing is that none of our old players scored against us. They had great games. Zaniolo had a fantastic time and got himself an assist, but they didn't score, and that's, I guess, a positive in some way. They actually went on to win it as well, Newcastle. They went on to win the competition. We finished 5th, though. And if I think I'm correct in saying, that's the highest that we finished so far this season. So there is upward progress in terms of this Tuscana save. We are finished higher than what we did when we had Zaniolo and Baldanzi. And our team right now does not exactly look like we are playing with phenomenal players. I have been locking in a player. It's been a bit of a mistake doing so because he hasn't done very well, but I thought we'd play Biashki and see what he could do. He was quite well-rounded in terms of the strikers that we had after the youth intake, and it didn't work. It did not work at all. But Gilarducci, bit of development there, so not too bad at all. We just need to hope he continues with that. And Martinelli is arguably one of our best players, which is kind of funny, to be honest. Presta was the top scorer for us this season. Francesco Presta, who has been playing up front some of the games, coming off the bench. I didn't think he would be that good, but 22 years old, he don't look too bad. He don't look too bad. He wins our golden boot this season with Boncini, who I don't rate at all, really, doing quite well. But we need to keep hold of our players that was already here. We've got £34 million. Should we wish to sign another player from another club? But again, we're going to be relying on our scouts to find us these players because they have found a few targets. Again, at Empoli, there's a recommended A- here for Davide Marcelli. It's just another centre-back, though. 5'9", left-footed. I mean, I'll probably bring him in anyway. Because, you know, we don't have a lot of options from this nation. But it's just frustrating that it's another centre-back who has bad attributes in the place where you need a centre-back to have good attributes in. Jump and reach and positioning. He's more of a DM, if I'm honest. I could bring him in and play him at DM, but then his natural fitness isn't that high. He does have a professional personality. I don't know, but we'll see what happens at the when we get to the end of the transfer window. Okay, well, we have signed 2 players from Empoli, but not the guy that we were looking at. He actually turned me down, didn't want to speak to us when we had a bid accepted. So we went and signed 2 of his friends instead. Now, I feel like we're just raiding Empoli's youth intakes of this, so we're trying to give Tuscana as best chance as we possibly can. Federico Vita for £1.8 million. It's another centre-back that they had. 6'3". Now, he has low determination of only 4, but he's good with both feet, and I think that's quite important. So that's not too bad, and we've also brought in Roberto Fedeli, £2 million, and he's a good striker. This could be a guy that could get into our first team in the next couple of years, I was toying with actually chucking him in immediately, but there's a guy that I want to give some game time to see if he can actually produce some goals this season instead of chucking in Fideli now. But he's going to go in our under-20s where he will be playing football and hopefully scoring some goals. But yeah, spirited personality, 15 determination, great pace and acceleration, and natural fitness is high. The aggression is good too. So a pressing forward, that could be a really good option for us going forward in the future. I like the look of that one. Okay, so those players have joined the club. We haven't loaned out any players yet, and that is because I'm actually trying to give them some game time. We can see here there are 4 or 5 players who are going straight into our starting 11 that we want to play every season. I mentioned another striker. I want to give this guy some game time and see if he can score. He's 6'3", some good anticipation there. His finishing's a little bit low, but his physicals, I think, will give him opportunities to score goals. And composure of 12 and off the ball of 13 with good anticipation. I'm kind of hoping that he can beat the offside trap a couple of times and just be in the right place at the right time. I know 11 finishing is bad, but it's not the be-all and end-all when it comes to being a good striker. Hasn't scored this season yet, but he did score a couple for the youth academy last season. He actually got 40 goals in 42 appearances, which is the reason why I wanted to give him some game time and see what he could do for our first team. So I'm trying to give opportunities to them. Gilarducci, of course, from last season is there again. Sicardi. Yeah, it's time. It's time to pull the trigger on Sicardi. He went on loan last season, had a great season there in Serie B. It's time to do it in the first team. I don't think he's quite there yet, but we're forcing him in almost immediately. And Barberini, who, to be honest, didn't anticipate being this good this soon, is a player that we picked up last year for £9.5 million. I feel like I overstepped that one and we didn't show it. No, we did show it. We did show it. It was the guy that we signed for £8.5 million. I think the trouble is Gilarducci was such a big signing, I forgot his name. But we're giving him game time. And we're putting him in the cover role because he has 17 for pace. So I think this could be a good player for us this year. He's already a 3-star. Could be solid for us. We're sticking with the same tactic. So we'll see how it goes. If we do best 11 pick, obviously ignore the fact that a lot of these will leave. He does stay in there. Gilarducci stays in there. Presta goes up there. But I don't think he's as good as the guy we locked in. And Di Lorenzo, of course, takes over the position at right wing back. I think Di Lorenzo will naturally go in the left wing back role if we don't lock him in, because he can play there. He is 34 though. Great natural fitness, which means, he's not going to get worse anytime soon. But I think we need to pull the trigger on Sicardi now for us. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, start of the season's been 2 wins, 2 losses, but the teams that we've actually played against, 4 really difficult games, and we beat the 2 that I thought would be the hardest ones to beat. I mean, Samuel Ricci getting a hat-trick against AC Milan is no short of phenomenal, by the way, from a centre midfielder who's playing DM. And then an away trip then to Milan and beating them 2-0. Lovely stuff. Gilarducci and Barberini both scoring. Gilarducci scoring twice in a row against Inter Milan, his former club, is absolute chef's kiss. We're in the Europa League phase, though. Can we do something in the Europa League this year? I don't really know. Well, the answer to that question is no, because Gladbach have knocked us out of the competition 7-3 on aggregate in the round of 16, meaning at this point when we got youth intake day, we're not in that or the Coppa Italia this season. It's a bad year for us. Early doors, because 8th place we are currently. However, we are still within touching distance of 6th, I would say. 7 points behind Roma. Might be a little bit too hard to get, but only 3 points behind 6th. That's a possibility. Martinelli has been good in terms of keeping clean sheets. We just cannot score goals. That's been our big problem. Presta's got 10 of them. Braschi, who has been starting majority of the games, has only got 8. So that's disappointing, isn't it? Presta's been playing from the left. Gilarducci's only got 8. We've only 2 assists this season. Not been helping. Defensively, we're looking okay. But it's just going forward that is costing us every single time. Now, I understand that we are doing here a Tuscana-only save. And you're probably thinking, well, how's Tuscana doing nationality-wise? I don't think in this database they have been given the ability to progress. They are just playing friendlies, which is the reason why their youth rank, or their rank, sorry, is still 211th, which is, if I'm right in saying, the worst because they're not in like FIFA or UEFA. So they can't qualify for competitions. They can't go into qualification stages, which is a shame because it would be quite nice to see whether we could actually obviously take them quite high, but that's not a possibility. They're down here with obviously a lot of the islands around the world that don't count either. Somebody actually mentioned to me the other day about doing a save from Tuvalu, which would be quite an intriguing one, but maybe that's for another video for another day. So yeah, Tuscana, although they have some great players, they don't have the ability to get any better in the world rankings, which is a shame. But it is Youth Intake Day. Let's take a look then. We have one elite talent, and it's finally a striker. Thank you so much. Is he good, though? I would say yes. I would say yes. We have an enthusiastic striker who is a perfectionist. With 16 determination. Perfectionist, by the way, is arguably the best that you can get. Teamwork and work rate is also really high, which makes me excited. He's going to work hard for the team. Acceleration and pace is not great, but we can train that. That's important. Left-footed, not bad. Natural fitness is okay. This is an immediate yes. His consistency is quite bad at the time, but I know a lot of the young players have bad consistency to begin with, and that's an attribute that can improve. So that's not the end of the world. Other top talents, I don't think there's really any other great options. Del Grande here, low determination of 2, not fantastic. Bolongini, again, or Bolognini, unambitious. Yeah, not good. But I will sacrifice having 3 or 4 average players to have one good player up front. And I think that's quite important. So, a win, I think. A rare win in terms of a youth intake. End of Season 5, though, and we have qualification for the Europa Conference League next season by finishing in 7th place. I would love to get a European competition under our belts within 10 years. This is the end of season number 5. I know this is a slow process of basically just staying around the same point, but remember, we lost Baldanzi and Zaniolo and haven't really had the players to replace them just yet. However, we are getting rejected for things that I was hoping would not get rejected at this point. They're still rejecting our requests to do certain things, and if we look at the club info, we have 3.5-star youth recruitment. I was hoping we could just get that up as much as possible, but it doesn't seem to be the case. We have a lot of players, though, who are knocking on the door of first-team football, so I'll have to assess the side this summer and see if there's players that we can naturally just stick straight into the team. Fedeli, by the way, Roberto Fedeli, scored 16 times in 24 starts for the youth team last season and has developed in a little bit, to be honest, the 18-year-old. And Valdala, who, of course, we picked up in one of the earlier times. He also got 13 goals, which for a centre-back is not too bad, but he has been training at CDM as well. So he's been playing both, which gives us a good option, although he's only got 9 for passing, and 15 for tackling. So does suggest he's more of a ball-winning midfielder if he does go in there, but he's 6'5". I think playing him at centre-back with 13 position is probably a better option for us. 13 goals from Braschi. I think that experiment kind of failed, to be honest. Probably won't do that next year. There's a couple of players that I think deserve a spot in there more than what he does. If we found a striker who could score goals, I'm telling you, I think we'll be top 3. Because I think the rest of the team is doing us very proud. Barberini, by the way, what a season he's had. A fantastic first season in the team. 6.76 for a centre-back. Really good in this first year. I'm absolutely buzzing with him, to be honest. I think the development has been good. His performances has been good. It tells me, obviously, that he's been playing well because he is wanted by Atalanta. They're sniffing around him already, but he's got a 4-year contract. We should be fine. I think that was a great experiment. Sicardi's development has been good, but his output has not. 1 assist in the league all season. That is bad. We need that to be higher, and that's the big trouble. Gilarducci, 10 goals, 3 assists. I mean, goals-wise, it's great, but just 3 assists. It shows we're lacking a good striker. It really, really does. But we do have £45 million if there is one from Empoli. But there's a couple of good players from Empoli that we can have a look at. There's another one right there. But yeah, scouting players. Gianluca Gianluca Busio, for some reason, counts, I think. I don't know why I've clicked nickname there. I don't know why he was on our, like, scouted in terms of potentially some that we can get there, or is he not? I don't really know what's going on there. The important thing is that there are options. Marcelli, of course, we've seen him, I think, last season. Just going to keep trying. Just going to keep trying until we can actually sign him. Looks like he is willing to talk to us at the very least this time, but there's a couple of players there from Empoli that I am really intrigued with bringing into the club. Okay, I've been at it again with the loans. I really looked at the players that I think would get into the first team, maybe players that should be getting first team football at a better club but can't get into ours because of the players that we've got, and determined that these guys here should go out on loan. Now, King Fung Gufidia, I mentioned his name. He's at Pisa, and he's actually playing games. There's a potential that there's a player in that, and I really hope it is because his name is phenomenal. But there we go. Vidal has also gone to Pisa on loan. We mentioned him, 6'5", goes straight into the first team. So again, they're playing in Serie B, so that's an intriguing one for me. Elvis Mareshki looks an okay striker, just needs better finishing composure, to be honest. We'll see. He's 18. There's still a lot of time for him to develop. I think the main important one here is this guy, Moroni. We've seen the potential that he already has of getting into our first team, but we have a couple of really good players there already right now. So I think a loan deal is quite important. So he's gone out to Frosinone, who is in the Serie B and playing first team football. Again, really important that that happens. Di Tomasi, not a bad option at right back or left wing back. So I think it's quite important we give him. And he's, to be honest, I don't think we even looked at him when he came through. We might have done. I can't remember when he came through our youth intake, but looks a bit of a player, to be honest. I think we've had so many right backs, I've just forgot about some of them. And then finally, Del Coco, who is that right back with good right winger abilities. I think he's got a bit of an identity crisis, and I'm hoping he can find it in this division here. But 7.1 in 4 games average rating is not bad. There's no goal contributions, which is a little bit weird. But here we go. 3 signings, all from Empoli. My prediction was correct. This is the team that I thought we would be picking off players in the future, and they've really come up trumps this season as well. Still can't get that centre-back. I don't know what it is. He just don't want to come to me. But Alex Cuckoo, another right back, but actually you can see why I've signed him, correct? Light-hearted personality, not bad. For the price of £1.8 million, it's peanuts, really. Sartori, a centre attacking midfielder who's only 16. Okay, not great potential, but we're just filling the squad, giving us options at this point. The main guy is Sergio Said, and we did see him, and obviously that one was only 190k. Sergio Said, £2.5 million. This guy, I think, actually has potential to get into our first team within the next couple of seasons. 17 years of age, great work rate and determination, fantastic first touch and passing ability, has an unsporting personality, which isn't great, but natural fitness is there. I kind of like the look of him. I like the fact he's natural in both centre mid and DM. Yeah, I think this could be a potential. So he's playing in our youth team this season. Let's see if he can do anything. Now, tactically, we're still running the same because I think we have to. I'm giving Braschi another chance. And I started the season not picking a striker, and Braschi went into the lineup, and he's got 3. So I actually want to give him game time and see if he can continue to score. So we'll see about that. Now, the goals that he did score, which was in the league, well, actually, to be fair, I think it was not in the league. He got 2 in one game, or 1 game in this against Lillestrøm here, another one against Lillestrøm, and he scored in the opening day of the season against Cremonense, which is the reason why I've kept him in the lineup. But he hasn't exactly hit the ground running in the Serie A since. But we lost to Atalanta, we lost to Genoa. It's not been a bad start, but yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before we really bring in the likes of Fideli into the starting 11. He has been sort of playing into it anyway. You can see at the start of the season here, twice he's come off the bench. He's in our under-20s, but he's been making the bench. So we will be getting a bit of best of both, to be honest, which is important as well. You need to make sure if they aren't getting first team football, that they are still getting youth football, because they can still develop and just play a part, and that's the most important thing. All right, it's not going well for us in the league this season. We're down in 11th place. We are missing goal scorers. I'll say it every season. 38 points. We are some way off a European spot next season. We are also 3-0 down in the semi-final against AC Milan, so I can't see us getting to the final of that. But we stand a very good chance if we can avoid Tottenham Hotspur in the Europa Conference League. We've got Bilbao in the next round, which is hilarious because it's almost like Basque versus Tuscana now. But we'll see. Brashi's got 9 goals in the league. I wanted him to be good. I did want him to be good, but that's the same amount as what he got the whole of last season, so maybe. But it is youth intake day, so let's see what we've got on our hands here. We've got Casali, a midfield centre as an elite talent this season. This is only classed as a good intake, so there's not a lot of options. There's 2 centre midfielders, really, which is kind of a position which we've bulked up in recently. I think, we got a couple of strikers in the last couple of years, but I think maybe we've got a lot of right backs, but no left-sided players coming in and no wingers for a long time. No wingers that I've noted would be good. Spirited personality, determination is only 6 though, which is kind of disappointing. He does look like he could be trained arguably as a good right back, but yeah, as a centre midfielder, I'm not too sure about Casali. We'll see about that one. Luis Morelli, I actually think, has the basis of being a better centre midfielder. He also has higher determination, and he has a professional personality. So he might not have a highest potential, but he might stand more of a chance of getting that potential. Heading abilities there. Passing is only 8, which is kind of low because his vision's 6. But we'll see about that. We'll see if he can turn into anything. I'm not really counting my chickens on any of them, to be honest. At the minute, Empoli's having a way better time bringing players through than what we are. But our youth recruitment is getting slightly better, so I'm hopefully we can start stealing those players before we have to actually buy them ourselves. Well, I said we would have to avoid Tottenham Hotspur. We got drawn against them in the semi-final, and that is where they knocked us out, unfortunately. Final beat them in the final, though, so that's some consolation, I guess. 0-0 in the first leg, lost 2-1 in the second leg. We knew we wouldn't be able to overcome AC Milan, who lost to Juventus in the final there. However, a great end of the season in the league. We pushed ourselves into Europa Conference League again next season. Another chance at a European trophy, thanks to our very ballsy effort at the end of the season. You can see the amount of wins that we get just in the league alone is quite impressive towards the end of the season. We actually go unbeaten from the 4th of February to the end of the season. Very impressive finish, considering how bad we were in that period with only 1 win in nearly 3 months. So a serious improvement from that point, from March onwards, where we did draw a lot of games as well. If you think when the youth intake was, I think that game was the game after Venezia. We only actually dropped 2 points from that point, and that was wins against Lazio, Inter Milan, and Juve, and a 4-0 win at Parma at the end of the season. Strong finish to the end of the season compared to obviously where we were. And Brashi now has put me in a tough predicament because 22 goals across the season is not bad. I don't know. Di Stefano from that left-hand side is done quite well too. Not too bad. Samuel Ricci is chipping in, but every time I look at him, he wants to move to another club. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to hold him down. Fideli has come into the team and got 7 goals this season, so that's been an improvement. I am looking at him each time and going, we should be pulling the trigger and playing him, to be honest. Sacardi with 10 assists has been great from that right wing back. Well, that's better than what we had last season. And I actually started playing Sergio Sá towards the end of the season, and for a good reason. I think it's done quite well. The development is nice. Tommaso Martinelli, of course, the first guy we locked in, the goalkeeper, is 23 now. Very good player indeed. We've got £63 million, so that's phenomenal. And that is because, bad news, I didn't mention it before, we lost Barberini, our centre-back. Our cover centre-back has gone to Liverpool. Double the price of what we paid for him, but he was our best centre-back when he left the club. We developed him really well, and Liverpool stole him. So it's release clauses that's killing us, but a lot of these players will not sign a contract unless you give them a release clause. And that's the trouble I am finding myself right now. The development center, if we're looking at loans, though, we can see they are playing a lot of games, which is good. I'm picking my loans very carefully. The worst thing is when you send a player on loan to a club and he never plays. King Fung hasn't really developed. But goals-wise, Elvis Mareschke did get 7. It's not amazing, to be honest, though. Maroney didn't get any goals. He got 1 assist. A bit of development, not as much as what I was hoping, if I'm honest. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention at that point, though, was we have done some more requests. And Improve Youth Recruitment was actually rejected, but the junior coaching budget this time was accepted. Again, I don't really know what's the best route in terms of getting better youth players to come in the door, but I'm just asking for as many different things that seem youth related as possible. One of them gets accepted, one of them just got rejected. Okay, no players joined the club this season, couldn't find any worthy candidates to pick off of Empoli, and unfortunately, nobody left the club as well. But we are changing the tactic, and that is because I think we're at a point now where we can bring in an extra striker. Fideli is knocking on the door, and he needs game time. So we're sticking him in that DLF role on the left-hand side there, and giving him as much game time as possible. Sad, Sacardi, Gilarducci, or getting first team football this season. And we started off the season okay. We've lost to Napoli. We have beaten Empoli, though, probably because they've got no players left. But we have started the season quite well with 3 wins out of 4 fixtures, and we've qualified for the Europa Conference League. Okay, but it's youth intake day. Let's have a look at how we're doing this season. Quarterfinal exit by AC Milan 2-1. Unfortunate, but hey, it's AC Milan. We're still in the Europa Conference League, though, and that's been great. We got Hoffenheim in the next round. We just knocked out Anderlecht in the round of 16. In the knockout playoff round, we avoided, and that's because the league phase we did very well, only losing to Charleroi, but winning 5 fixtures until, again, being Anderlecht. And Vittoria is quite a good result, because sometimes they can be really good after a few seasons, because they've got a good youth intake as well. Very similar to ours, we hope. In the league, which is youth intake day, which is why I said it. In the league, we're 6th place right now. Fantastic. And we're only a couple of points away from 5th and 3 points away from 4th. Could we get our first top 4 finish? It's a possibility. Roberto Fideli has 14 goals this season. We finally have a name up there for the first time since Pavlotti left us and retired, which is great, but nowhere near the actual golden boot of Dusan Vlahovic, who's got 10 more so far. But it's youth intake day. Cross your fingers and your toes. We've just got the one elite talent. But again, it's a striker. Interesting. An average intake, which is not a good sign. Darko Girasol, fairly determined, 17 determination, good pace, which is great. Feet, in terms of fairly strong left foot, very strong right foot's great. Technical ability looks rather poor, but an okay natural fitness and good consistency too. There's something in that player for sure. I don't know whether he'll turn into an absolute baller, but there's something in him. The other talents, there's not a lot going on. Not a lot going on, unfortunately. I'm not looking at any of these players and going, yeah, a little bit of tender love of care, and we should get a first-team player out of them. There's this guy here who's a resolute personality, 15 for passing. Doesn't look amazing, but there's, a chance, I think. I think that's as generous as I can be with this guy. Oh, but it's still no European trophy this season. Hoffenheim was the club that knocked us out in that quarter-final stage, but we still got European football next season, and we are just goal difference away, I think, in the Serie A. I'm not sure whether it's goal difference or what is it? It is result between teams, so obviously we lost to Napoli earlier on, I think. We finished on the same points as Napoli with 67. It's a great season, really, for Fiorentina. For a long time, we have struggled. So, yeah, there's some positives. There's definitely some positives to take from this year. I'm enjoying this tactic more than what the last one was suggestion with the winger, for the fact that we've got more men in the box, and Fideli has definitely benefited from that. His pace has been great, and what I have been doing is bringing in quickness as an additional focus for a lot of the players coming in, because a lot of them have had low quickness, to be honest. But it's helped Gilarducci. As you can see here, he has 10 goals and 17 assists. His assist tally was awful last couple of years. Now it's kind of skyrocketed when we've got 2 players in the butt. I mean, actually, he got more last season, but across the whole campaign, he got 17, which is fantastic. Fedeli getting 25 goals is amazing. And Sergio Sad's got 15 assists. He looks a bit of a baller in terms of passing, by the way. He looks really good for passing. So there's a lot of positive to take from this season. I'm enjoying it now in terms of seeing some kind of output coming, and the development is there. We're right on the cusp of having a great team again, I think, after losing Baldanzi, after losing Zaniolo, and of course losing our centre-back last season. We're still hanging on to some players. The likes of Samuel Roma is coming in and playing majority of games now, which is great. If we're looking at our tactic, by the way, if I just do best 11 pick, you can kind of see the players that we're playing. Viti and Mancini are still in there, but Roma is coming in as like the third centre-back now, which is great. That's the reason why I'm locking in Sade, because Amatucci, for some reason, goes in there, and I don't necessarily want him to. He's okay, but not as, I think, potential-wise, will be better off. And Dimarchi and Fedeli. So Dimarchi was Lucio Dimarchi, has come into the team very recently and played a couple of games. He's got 1 goal and 3 appearances, but look at this. In terms of non-competitive, which is the youth games he'll be playing, 66 appearances, 48 goals. Now, okay, 7 of them were penalties, but 21 assists as well. So we could have a bit of a player on our hands there with Lucio Dimarchi, who in the development centre is starting to stack up with some good names in there now. We're starting to get to that point in a youth intake save where you start to get options, and that's good. That's what we need. But what I think we're going to have to do is leave it there for now. We will be back. So make sure you are subscribed, because this Tuscana challenge is not over. We have only just touched the surface of what we could potentially do. We've got 1 Coppa Italia. We've come very close to another. We just can't get over the line in terms of European trophy, but I feel like we're building something here, and I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for you to make sure you're subscribed and turn those notifications on so you don't miss when the second part of this comes out.